Hi, my name's Kimiko and I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. Recently, I was diagnosed with ADHD and I realized that a lifetime of deeply passionate hobbies were more than that. They were my hyperfixations, and I want to share them with you. Hello and welcome back to my Hyperfixations, a show where I go through my previous hyperfixations with you because ADHD do be making you think about things a lot. So today's hyperfixation is dog enrichment. So about a year and a half ago now, I adopted a sweet little puppo. His name is Ube. He's actually forbidden from being in the house while I'm filming, which is why you haven't seen him yet. I don't know if he's just jealous that he doesn't get his time on the camera, but he is a little helliant when I'm trying to film. So he will make an appearance later in the video. I promise I'll show you him trying out his doggo enrichment. But after I got Ube, I realized that, first of all, having a dog is hard. It's a lot more work than I ever thought it was going to be. But also, sometimes it's too cold to go for walks outside. I live in Edmonton. It gets to be -40. And when it's that cold, I don't want to go outside. My doggo doesn't want to go outside. And we need to turn to something to help keep his brain occupied. So that is the whole world of enrichment. So if you don't know what enrichment is, it basically is just doing stuff to exercise your dog's brain. And usually that stuff involves some kind of treat or food because, let's be honest, who wants to work hard without a reward? So I have a bunch of different enrichment implements with me right now. So I'll show you some of them and then I'm going to show you how I get them set up for Ube. So first and kind of most popular of the enrichment things that you might recognize are these like freezable treat dispenser guys. So there's Kongs, there's off-brands, there's anything that is basically a stuffable treat dispensing doodad. So these are really popular. People like to fill them with peanut butter. So I have these. There's also another brand here that's the same idea. This is a topple, and these are just easier for your dog to get into from the top because sometimes the opening on this can be really small. So dogs can get frustrated. So if you have a bigger top, it can be easier to get the treats and your dogs stop being quite so frustrated. I do have one more off-brand here one too. This one's shaped like a peanut. Again, it's all just something that you can stuff in from the bottom. And these are all one array of toy. The next array is lick mats. So as the name implies, it is a mat for the dog to lick. So you'll cover this with something tasty and then your dog licks it off. And licking has been proven to be really good at calming dogs down and getting them to de-stress. So if you have a dog who's been causing a lot of ruckus, stuff like this can really help because it tires them out, like I said, and it just is soothing for them, I guess, to lick. So there's different types of lick mats that you can get, different designs, some that are a little bit deeper like this, some that are a little more shallow. My recommendation, honestly, is to go with ones that are a little bit more shallow. These deep ones, I find that my dog, at least, doesn't get all the way to the bottom of them, so it isn't the greatest because he's wasting a lot of food that's just caught in here afterwards. So I would recommend going for this more shallow version. It's also a lot easier to clean. It can be really annoying to get into the deep crevasses. So that's just my 2 cents on lick mats. There's 1,004 different types that you can buy for them. The next thing is slow feeders. So I have here my slow feeders that I use. I have some big ones, and he gets all of his dinners in these. I will add the preface here that maybe you'll feel bad for Ube, maybe you won't. He doesn't ever just get to eat food. So he always has to either get it out of his slow feeder, get it from an enrichment toy, or he's being trained with his food. He never gets to just eat it. And I find that that's just a lot better for him. It works out his brain. And if I don't use one of these slow feeders, he will actually eat too fast and then he throws up afterwards. It's not very nice. So I use the slow feeders just to add an extra layer of not having my dog vomit anywhere, but also it works his brain out. Everything here, we want to work his brain out. This one is really cool. It's a mixture of a slow feeder but a puzzle. So what I like to do, and I'll show you in a minute here, is basically fill out all these little cups with treats that I then freeze, and then I'll put his regular food at the bottom, and as he's licking and as he's trying to get things out, this insert here spins around. So it makes it a lot more difficult for him to get things, and he has to work really hard to get his food. And I love this. Honestly, it takes him probably like 20 minutes to finish his dinner when it's in this, and then at the end of it, he's ready to go outside, do his business, and then take a nap, which is ideal. So I really recommend stuff like this. It's almost no effort on your part, but it exhausts your dog, which is the goal of today. Exhausting our dogs and having fun for us too while we're doing it. So the last little set here that I'll show you is similar to the slow feeders, but I use these more kind of like lick mats and treats as well, but just like a little more complex of a lick mat. I don't feed like full meals in these. Even this little one, it is the small version. I have the big slow feeder, but this isn't enough for Ube's food. He's a pretty big boy, so I like to use it for treats. And then I just have a plain metal bowl here that I'll also use for treats. So I'm going to show you how I fill all of these things. And I have different methods that I use for each item that I fill. So I'm going to start with these stuffable guys here. So what I like to do with these fillable guys is I like to stuff them with kibble that I've soaked. So I have here, it's just kibble that is soaking in water. It looks pretty gross. Honestly, it smells pretty unappetizing too. So just a heads up, it's gonna be stanky. And some people like to fill these with like really fancy stuff or like peanut butter or just like fancy dog things. I like to use the kibble because I already have it on hand and I want to make things as easy for me as possible. It's part of his diet already, so I know it's not going to give him an upset tummy or anything like that. So I'm just spooning the kibble inside of the treat. It can be a bit of a messy process, so just be careful for that. And I do have a jar underneath because since I've soaked the kibble, there is water, and when I'm scooping it in, some extra water is going to fall out, and then the jar is going to catch it underneath, so I'm not making too big of a mess. I'll still be making a little mess, but not the biggest of messes. And so I'm just going to fill this about like 80% with kibble. And if your dog is on a diet or anything like that, you can be a lot more mathematical than I am and actually like measure out how much kibble is going inside of each container, and then just subtract that from the total amount that your dog is fed in the day, and that way you can make sure that their calorie count and all of that good stuff isn't getting completely blown out of the water with their enrichment treats. For me, my dog actually has a hard time keeping weight on, so I can kind of feed him as much as his heart desires, which is a lot, and we don't really have to worry about weight gain, which is nice. So we've got this filled to about 80%, like I said. And the reason that I like to soak the kibble is two reasons. First is it's a little bit easier on their tummies when the kibble is soaked. It's just easier for them to digest since it's already wet. And then second reason is because when this goes in the freezer, and all of these things are going to end up going in the freezer at the end of this, when it goes in the freezer, the kibble will all freeze to each other since they're wet, and then it makes it a lot harder for him to get the kibbles out. And that's kind of my goal here, is to make all of this stuff reasonably difficult for him to get. If you are just starting off with using enrichment for your doggo, I would recommend maybe making things a little bit easier at first and then progressing to making it harder as you go, just because sometimes dogs can get really frustrated and then give up if it's too hard to get the treats. So maybe don't freeze it the first time or something that you give it to your dog, and then afterwards you can start working that in. The next thing I've got here is wet dog food that I am going to spoon still into the same container, and I'm just going to fill it up the rest of the way with this wet food The reason I'm doing this is licking is really soothing for dogs. So my dog likes to lick this wet food. He won't try and lick the kibble out, but he will lick the wet food. So I like to start off his little enrichment activity by licking up the wet food and enjoying that. And then he can work on getting the other kibble out afterwards. And I also find he goes absolutely nuts for wet food too. So if you're trying to start your dog off on enrichment, maybe start with something really high value, because that always gets them going. That gets them so excited. So this is what the finished Kong will look, or Kong or stuffable or whatever you want to call these will look like. And then it'll go in the freezer. So I'll put this to the side for now. And we'll work on filling our next one. So our next one is this little guy here, which is, it's got the big top on it. So for this guy, you would fill it the exact same way. And I just use the same spoon for all of this. Like, it's all going in the same place later anyway, which is my dog. So for this, I fill it the same way, where I'll just spoon the kibble on top, or inside, I guess. And then I will top it off with wet food. These ones are also a little bit easier, so if you haven't tried any of these with your dog before and you think they might be the type to get frustrated, these open top ones are really, really good. And I like to just bulk prepare all of these. I just find it a lot easier to do in batches. Saves time, it saves having to do more dishes because you're just using the same stuff. And also with like the can of wet food, I'm not going to use all of that on like one stuffable treat. So it makes more sense just to do them all at once, and then I can use the full can on multiple treats and not have to worry about storing it in my fridge or anything like that. So that's what this one looks like filled. I'll show you one last stuffable. It's this little peanut looking one. And so what I'm gonna do with this one is actually a little bit different. So those ones were just kibble and wet food. What I'm gonna do in this one is I'm actually gonna take a bully stick and put it inside of this little peanut guy. And I'm gonna stick it all the way to the bottom, because there is kind of like these two sections. So I'm sticking it all the way into the bottom. And then I'm just gonna seal off this top area with some of the wet food. And the reason I'm doing this is it just makes it harder for him to get the bully stick out. So anything I can do to make my dog's treats harder to get, I will do it, because it tires him out more. And I find that he just like makes more of it when he's got to work a little bit harder, which is really nice. And I will say, like, if you are ever too tired to take your dog out for a walk, or like they're just driving you nuts and you need time to yourself, there is no shame in giving your dog an enrichment toy instead. It can be really hard sometimes to get the motivation to, you know, look after another living human being. Depression is a really high comorbidity for people with ADHD. And again, I'm not a doctor, so if any of this is resonating with you, go seek a medical professional's help. But depression is really common for people who have ADHD, and like I said, there are times when like it can be hard enough to look after yourself, let alone another living, breathing creature in the world. So if you need to use stuff like this because you can't go for a walk, or you don't have the energy to do more for your pet, there's no shame. There's no shame in that. Use the tools that you have, and stuff like this, again, is really great at tiring your pet out. Use the tools that you have. It's okay. And if anyone shames you for it, I'll fight them. I'm not a very good fighter, but I'll do it for you, because you deserve to be guilt-free over doing what you have to do to look after your pet. And also, your pet's probably going to be super happy anyways, because this is all super tasty and delightful. So, preface made. But yeah, so this is the little peanut guy. It's just stuffed with the bully stick and wet food in here. And this will take him a lot longer to get out and eat than if I just gave him the bully stick. So it's also a little bit more bang for your buck. Now, pivoting, we're going to move into kind of the more lick mat style things. So one of the things I like to do is I have this just silver bowl here, and I like to use this to mix all of his food inside of that we're going to use for the lick mat. So one of the things that I like to use my dog enrichment for is actually kind of getting rid of produce and things that are just on the other side of what I want to eat. Like they're still edible, it's not quite what I want. So this banana, for example, she is mushier than I would like. And let's be real, I'm not gonna make banana bread with it. So instead, I'm going to use this for my doggo's enrichment. So I'm just gonna peel the banana and toss it in this bowl to mush up. And I'll do this, to be quite honest, pretty frequently with stuff that is dog safe to eat. I will put it into enrichment for him because it's really good for his brain. He gets to try something new, and I don't have to feel bad about throwing away produce that's maybe not the texture that I like to eat anymore. We've talked about this a little bit before in the cooking video, but it can be really hard to use up your groceries and things, especially like when you have ADHD and you forget about what's in your fridge, and it's just a whole thing. So this way I don't have to feel bad about anything going to waste because I'm still using it. I'm just using it for my doggo. And in this economy, you gotta use the things you buy. Groceries are $1,000. Use them where you can. My dog's gonna love this, and I wouldn't have because it was mushy, so that's fine. So I'm just using this bowl to mash things in because I'm actually gonna use this bowl afterwards to freeze 2 as a toy, and this means I have 1 less set of dishes to do. Today, for the sake of filming, I've kind of portioned everything out into bowls, but ordinarily I would literally just throw it straight from the container into this so that I don't have to do extra dishes. We love not having to do more when we don't have to. So I have my banana mushed up here. I'm going to add extra stuff to it because I know he doesn't like banana on his own, but he'll have it mixed in with Tasty Yummies. So the additional Tasty Yummies, I've got a big bowl of Greek yogurt. This is just plain Greek yogurt, nothing fancy. And I buy like the big mega tubs for this. And then I'm also, into this mixture, going to put a big glob of peanut butter. He doesn't love the Greek yogurt on his own. He doesn't love the banana on his own. But if you put anything with peanut butter, he's there. He's sold. He's gonna eat the heck out of it. So that's what I'm doing here. So we're just gonna mix up this. And it looks kind of gross right now. I promise it'll degrossify itself in a bit here. And you can use anything that, again, is dog safe. Look it up, ask your vet if you need to ask your vet for help to figure out what's okay for your dog. My dog really likes all of this stuff and is okay with it, and it's fine for his tummy. And none of this is like replacing his regular food or anything like that. This is all just a little bit of a treat that he's getting on top of his regular food. Kind of coming together here, our peanut butter, Greek yogurt banana mix. Some people like to use like pumpkin and stuff like that. I just use whatever I've got around. I always have peanut butter and I always have Greek yogurt in my house. And then the fruit and vegetable component will change as things go. Like sometimes I'll put the ends of carrots in here, the little nubbins that I don't want to eat, or if I've got some questionable, to me, like apples or something, which I actually do have. I'll show you in a second. But yeah, you can put whatever you want here. We've got this big old bowl, and we are going to use this on our lick mats. The lick mats are really, really easy to fill. I'll show you on this green one first. I like to do basically half of this peanut butter mixture. So I'll put a big spoonful on. By half the peanut butter mixture, sorry, I meant half the mat of peanut butter mixture, not half the container. So I'll put that and then I'll spread it, and I like to push it as into the crevices as I can. On this shallow lick mat, my dog will actually do the work to try and get every bit of food off, whereas that's not necessarily the case for the deeper ones. So I always like to shove in as much as I can shove for the lick mats. And then on the other half of this, I am going to put in some applesauce. So this is applesauce that I made from some apples that, again, weren't the texture that I wanted to eat. So I just put them on the stove top with a little bit of water and then just stewed them until they broke down. I didn't add sugar or anything like that. Don't do that. It's not great for your dogs to have extra sugar. And I just put a little bit of this stuff on here, not quite as much as the Greek yogurt, as a nice little treat. And so that is a lick mat. It's really easy to do, and then this will go into the freezer afterwards. Next, I'll show you how I fill up this little slow feeder guy. So what I do with this is I like to take some more of the kibble that's been soaking, and I'll put that in here as well. I'll scatter that in just kind of as like a base. There's also a lot of liquid that's always in here, so I like to pour that into here too, since this is a pretty deep container. So I'll pour that in and I'll move all this stuff around. Again, I don't measure anything because I don't really need to, but if you need to for your dog's diet, do it. Measure it up. So I'll fill that. And then I like to just put globs of whatever I've got, because again, I always do this all at the same time. So in this one, I'll put a little glob of the peanut butter stuff. And again, I'll just smush it around so that he has to lick it and get in some crevasses to get it. And none of these are going to be particularly pretty. This isn't like a aesthetic dog feeding thing. It's more just what I do. And then I'll put in some more applesauce kind of in here too. And I like to use these little ridgy bits to try and stick stuff to that he can lick off. Otherwise, sometimes he gets a little bit impatient and will try to chew the plastic to get to the stuff at the... And that's that one all filled out. We're soaring now. We're cruising now that we've got everything mixed up. Sometimes I'll add a little bit more water into this if I want it to take him longer. So I'll show you how I do this puzzle one as well. So it comes with a top bonnet. Take the top off. And then I just fill up these little compartments. And these are usually things that I'll end up doing towards the end because I just like to use whatever is left behind. So I'll use a little scoop of this yogurt and I'll smush it around the edges here. And I don't fill the whole cup, I just fill enough that he can lick around. And I'll do one more like that too. Just fill it so that he has to lick it. Do that with some applesauce as well. You can use whatever you want. Some people will use like baby food for this. Other people will use like special supplements and things. You can literally use whatever. It doesn't matter too much as long as it's good for your dog and is okay for them to eat. I'm also just gonna fill these last two with some of the soaked kibble that we had and fill it up with some water from there as well. Hooray! That's what that one looks like, all filled up, and then it'll go into the freezer. One of the last ones here, I have this orange paw. That is also kind of like in that lick mat but feeder area. So for this, I'll do the same thing. And again, this is why I make really big batches of stuff, is because I can just like dollop it all into everything all at once, and it's a lot easier than having to make multiple batches. So I'll put some Greek yogurt in here. And he only gets maybe one of these a day, one or two, it depends on how generous I'm feeling. And if I am giving him two, I switch it between one of the food-filled ones, so one of those stuffables that we started with, because those are just food. And then I'll do one of these lick mat ones that are a little bit more treaty as well. But I don't like to do two of the treat ones because that's just a little too much treat, I think. Whereas the food ones are okay because it is technically his food, and I'll just take it out of whatever it is that I'm going to feed him later in the day. And then for the bottom part of this one, I'm just going to dump in whatever we had left over for the kibble and water mixture. This bowl is still pretty full of yogurt and stuff, so I'm going to do the rest of the lick mats and stuff off of camera. But what I'm going to do afterwards is I will keep this bowl, I'll spread the yogurt that's left in here on the sides like so, and then I'll scrape out the middle and then just fill it with some food and water and then freeze that. So I'm going to fill up all of these off camera the exact same way that I showed you on camera, and then I'm going to put them all in the freezer. Usually it takes a couple hours for everything to freeze, and then once Ube's home from his adventure, I will show you him eating one of these treats. So here is Ube. He's ready to eat his treat, and away he goes. So usually he'll have these for about, 10-ish minutes. And I'll leave you to enjoy the ASMR, and I'll see you at the next episode. Bye.